Hello enemies and book lovers, my name is Ash and this is going to be the mid-year tag video in June. It is halfway through the year. What? I am wearing a dress because oh my god, it's hot as heck. This is the hottest day so far in Canada. There's no fans or AC right now where I am because I don't want to make noise, so I'm hot. Hence my dewy complexion. I'm going to be doing the questions, hopefully kind of quick, and then I'm going to also be doing a little bit of my stats so far this year that I've been using on CAWPILE. I'll link CAWPILE down below if you want to use it as well. It's pretty much just for statistics and all that fun stuff. Let's get into the questions first. Hopefully I can get through this pretty quickly. So first we're going to talk about my reading challenge on Goodreads right now. As of right now, I have read 39 books out of my goal of 25. I put my goal purposefully really low this year because I moved out and I knew I wouldn't be reading as much books as usual. I think usually I read around 100 books a year, and this year I'm hoping I can at least get to 75. At this point it seems like that'll be pretty plausible, so I've read 39 books so far this year and I'm going to be finishing 2 more books before the end of this month. Technically I would have read 41 books so far this year after the month of June is over. So the first actual question is, what is the best book you've read this year so far? Honestly, I haven't even finished it yet, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be my favorite book of the year. This could potentially be my first 5 stars of the year, and like I said, I am currently reading it and I'm going to be finishing it in a few days, and that is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This book so far is amazing. It is amazing. My boyfriend and I are reading it kind of together. So my boyfriend is the bookmark, so this is my spot. I just started part 4 or act 4, and yeah, this is amazing. It is the 3rd and final book in the main trilogy of Mistborn, and it's great, to say the least. I'm definitely gonna say that this is probably going to be my favorite of the year. It's already one of my favorites of the year and I haven't finished it yet, so that's probably gonna be my answer for this one, even though I haven't finished it yet. It's pretty obvious that I'm probably gonna fall in love with it, so there we go. Next is best sequel I've read so far in 2022. I would say The Hero of Ages, but I already said that one, so I'm gonna try to choose a different book. And for that, I think I'm going to say it's The Reckoning, which is the 3rd book in the Zodiac Academy. This is from Caroline Peckman and Susan Valenti, and honestly, I think that this might be the one because I just enjoyed it so much. It was a fun time. I think that I just enjoyed it a lot, but I feel like there could have been a book that I could have chosen. I don't know if it's like the best book ever, the best sequel ever. There's a lot of books that I'm hoping to read that probably could top this, but for right now, mid-year, I would say it's The Reckoning. The next question is pretty difficult for me to answer, and that is, what new releases are you looking forward to reading that you haven't gotten to yet this year? And honestly, I don't know. I'm probably one of the few booktubers on here that don't read new releases. I tend to read books that are backlisted or like older books because I am so late in the game when it comes to the book community. So I just try to read older books, especially because I don't like reading series that aren't completed yet. So this is a really hard question for me. There are a few things I can pop up that I'm looking forward to reading that are slightly new, but I think most of them are from like 2021 or like maybe from 2022. I really want to get into House of Earth and Blood. I want to get into a lot of series I haven't gotten into that are continuing this year. Honestly, this question, I don't even know what to say because I looked on my Goodreads and there's nothing on my want to read list that has come out this year already that I really want to read because I don't read new releases. Wow, what a great booktuber I am. The next question is pretty similar, so this is also kind of hard for me. And this is books that are coming out in the later half of this year that you're looking forward to. So the only thing I could think of right now is Tragic Bonds, or the next book in the Ties That Bond series that is coming out this month. So technically it's not really in the later half of this year, it's like next week, but this is the only book that I really want to get to. I'm gonna be reading it like hopefully a week or 2 after it comes out. I might start doing videos of like new releases out every single month and talk about the books I'm looking forward to that month because I actually would like to get into more newer books. But I don't really read books that are new. I usually read older books that are already completed series. I never said I was a professional. I never said I was good at the booktube thing. But this is just sad. This is sad. I can't even answer these questions. Let's move on. Next is my most disappointing read of the year, and that is, without a doubt, Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa. I bought this book, and for me to buy a book is pretty big because I bought it full price. And for me to buy something full price is pretty astonishing. This is before I had a Kindle, so I didn't even have Kindle Unlimited, so I bought it for like $20 on Amazon, and I was expecting great things. It was pretty easy for me to think, okay, I'll like this book. I didn't. I actually DNF'd this book around halfway through. DNF'd is 88% of the way through, which is pretty bad. Usually I don't DNF books when I'm close to the end, but I could not force myself to get through this. I did not like this really at all. I gave it a 2.5 stars. Even though I did DNF it, I almost finished it, and the romance I think was what kind of did it for me. I didn't love the romance in it. I didn't like the bargainer. I just felt he was kind of annoying. I like the comedic characters in books, but this one was kind of he just annoyed me. It's just sad that I didn't like it because it's something I really thought I would love, but unfortunately I did not like this book. It's just getting hotter and hotter as the minutes tick by. Oh my gosh. Whew. Next is the book that surprised me the most, the biggest surprise of this year so far. This is another book that I read this month, and that is The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Sheffer. This book I finished a few days ago, and oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved it. I give it a 4.5, rounded it down to a 4. It was very close, almost a 5, but it didn't feel like a 5 to me. I'm so bad with 5s. I'm so picky. This book, I went into it expecting one thing and it went a different direction, and I was just like, okay. I went into it expecting a romance, and I got a psychological sci-fi with romance in it. And you know what? Love that. I will talk more about this book in my wrap up, but for now I'm just gonna say this was amazing. I was very much surprised by it. I did not expect what happened to happen. I was just loved it. Next is favorite new author. This one's also tricky because I've only read about 5 or 6 books that are by new authors this year because I'm trying to continue series. So this one's a bit tricky for me. This might be a bit of a cop-out because I just mentioned The Darkness Outside Us, but I think I might actually choose this again because I really want to read more of their writing. Also, all the other books either I didn't love or I DNF'd, or I just gave them like a 3 stars. So unfortunately, I didn't read many new authors this year that I loved. But like I said, I really want to try Elliot Sheffer's new or more work. So that's probably what I'm gonna say for this. Next question is newest fictional crush. This is interesting. So I am very easy to simp over characters. I've been doing it my whole life. I've been a gamer my whole life. I like anime. I simp over so many characters in anime. I simp over so many characters in video games. And the same goes for books. So this isn't hard for me technically, but at the same time, for some reason, I feel like this might be a little bit tricky because I haven't read a lot of books that are new. So let me just see what books I could choose this from. For some reason, I had a difficult time with this as well. I feel like this is like the easiest question for me. I'm so easy to fall in love with characters, but I guess not. There's not a lot of books this year that I feel like this towards anyone. Oh, actually, I think I know the answer for this right now. I have 2 that I could talk about, and I'll do one with a book and the next with manga. First is Gem from The Infernal Devices. I do like Will as well, but I think I have a soft spot for Gem a little bit more than Will. I just really think he's a sweetheart, and honestly, we love that. We love him. He is just a little warm sunshine, but that book is just breaking my heart. I still have to read the 3rd book. I think I'm just putting it off on purpose at this point. Next, I'm going to be choosing a female character, and that is Power from Chainsaw Man. She's weird, to say the least, but honestly, kind of like her. She's kind of cute. She's cute in a weird way, although she is weird. You know what? Who isn't a little bit weird sometimes? Actually, a few characters in Chainsaw Man that I would probably consider a slight crush, but I think Power would be my number 1. Next is my newest favorite character. So for new favorite character for this year, I would definitely choose Aitmada from the Greenbone Saga. He's kind of seen as a villainous character, kind of on the opposing side of the clan that you follow. So we're following a clan and we have an opposing clan, and she is the leader of that clan. And I think that she was one of my favorite characters in the Greenbone Saga. Obviously, like Hilo and Shay, like they were great too. I feel like mostly people like Hilo. He's probably like the most favorited of the trilogy that I've seen so far. I also love Andon and Shay, of course, but Aitmada, I think she was just so well done. I felt like she was so realistic in a lot of aspects. I just liked her a lot. There's a lot of characters in this trilogy that I would say that are probably some of my favorites now, but Aitmada, I mean, you can't really go wrong with her. She's freaking awesome. So next is a book that made me cry. It's kind of common for me, but kind of uncommon. It kind of just depends on the book. For me, I would say I think 2 books made me like teary-eyed. I didn't like bawl my eyes out or anything. That is a possibility still to happen. Like Hero of Ages might make me cry, honestly. But for right now, I don't really think any book made me full-on cry, but I have teared up from at least 2 books that I can recall. One being Skullsworn by Brian Staveley, and then another one being The Darkness Outside Us. Surprise, surprise. I think The Darkness Outside Us was a bit more emotional for me because of the concept of there's tragedy in this book and love, and that doesn't work well for me because I'm easily emotional. I know love very well because I have a boyfriend that I love, and like just putting myself in that situation makes me a bit emotional sometimes. So Skullsworn has a similar theme with love and kind of like the whole love and death and stuff like that. So Skullsworn didn't make me cry as much, The Darkness Outside Us did a little bit more, but more just like teary-eyed. I teared up like 3 times in that book. Also, Shadow Princess and from the Zodiac Academy, that book made me, it made me so emotional. I didn't cry a lot. I did tear up as well, but it hurt the most this year. So it made my chest actually physically hurt. And I'll be talking about that in my wrap-up as well, but just, that was hard. It was tough to read because I was so upset. But yeah, I guess those books made me tear up. They didn't make me actually cry, but close enough. Oh, then of course, I also wanted to add Inseparable by Simone de Beauvoir, because that book made me also kind of emotional and want to bawl my eyes out. I held back, but I almost did as well. So there you go. There's another book that made me almost cry, but I did get teary-eyed. So next is a book that made me happy, which is kind of funny because I read a lot of fantasy. Those don't really make me happy, honestly. But I did get around to reading the Tea Dragon books this month, and they're pretty sweet. They kind of made me happy. I did smile. I laughed a few times. It was so precious. So I think this would probably be my answer because it's one of the few books this year that are not fantasy or like hard-hitting. Just felt like a little like hug. They were so cute. And I also kind of teared up from the 3rd book because of the closure and just the reoccurring characters. It was really sweet. So I guess I would say this. I just don't read a lot of happy books. Like it's like a fantasy thing. But yeah, I mean, I read romance, which also has happy moments. But yeah, this would probably be the only books that made me feel a little bit of happiness. Otherwise, I put myself through turmoil by reading fantasy books that hurt. So, you know. Next is the most beautiful book that you bought this year. And this is kind of hard because I don't buy a lot of books, especially physical books. I've gotten a few books from an outlet place, a used bookstore. It's a local used bookstore. So I've gotten a few things there. But there's not really any books that I get much of. So for the most beautiful books I bought, probably going to be my Fairy Loot books. And the first is Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I have not read this, but it is gorgeous. Nice. We also have the front, so this is really pretty. I think this is like the most beautiful on the outside cover. And this is my other Fairy Loot adult box. I don't get them anymore because I can't afford them anymore. You know, such is life. This is like a beautiful outside as well, but the underside of it is what really sells it for me. This is what it looks like underneath the dust jacket, which is like gorgeous, like seriously gorgeous. So I would definitely say these 2 books were probably going to be my most beautiful books of this year so far. Next is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And this could go many different ways. I could add like not a million books. I can add like a dozen books to this list. Just, oof. I would love to continue A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like I said, I have not gotten to ACOWAR. I've been wanting to read it for years, but I keep putting it off because I like to just not continue series I love because I just want it to end, first of all. And because I know that I'm gonna go into reading slump if I read it. So ACOTAR, I'd probably love to. I also love to finish Throne of Glass. I'm on the last 2 books. I really should just get to that. I really need to get to them so that I can start Crescent City, that new series. But for right now, I just like to wait for Sarah J. Maas's books because they just put me in reading slumps, for 1, and for 2, I have commitment issues and I have trouble committing to things that I know I'll love because then my whole life is gonna be dedicated to it. So I'm scared. Okay, now quickly I'm gonna go over my stats so far this year. I'm gonna be kind of quick because this is already long enough. So let's just go over my stats so far since the month of June, and I'll be showing my CAWPILE for this. So let's do this. The first is how many books I've been reading every month, and the most so far has been April with 15 books. One of those was a DNF, but still, that's like 14 books. And to be honest, most of those were manga. I think I read like 6 or 7 volumes of Chainsaw Man, so technically speaking, it's not as much as you might think. It's still almost double the amount of pages I've read, so I also have the pages read right here. So technically, even then, I still read a lot in the month of April. So yeah, April was my best month. There was a readathon during that time. I was very competitive. I don't know if I can do that again, but you know, I still did a good job. Pretty proud of that. Next is my reading method. I've read 26 physical books and 15 ebooks and only 1 audiobook. I read my nonfictions on audiobook, so mostly that's probably my 1 nonfiction I read this year. Next is genre, and not surprisingly, my most read genre, 35%, is fantasy. I've read 15 books in the fantasy genre. Next, of course, as usual for me, 8 is from romance. That's my second most popular. Next is manga. Like I said, I read some Chainsaw Man, so that's probably why there is 6 volumes there. And there's paranormal and sci-fi, and this pretty much makes sense to me. The manga I don't usually read, but everything else, it seems pretty accurate. For book length, mostly 150 to 200. Like I said, again, manga. That's the reason for it. But 300 to 350 seems to be my average. 550 to 600 is my second or the third most, which fantasy books this year I've been reading. That's also not very surprising. I'll quickly put up my formats. course, mostly novels. Books by publisher, I'm actually reading a lot of self-published books because I got Kindle Unlimited for like 4 months free this year, I think, or 3 months free, so I got a lot of self-published books this year. Star rating, 3 and 4 is my most popular, and I have no 5 stars this year so far. I think Hero of Ages might change that. I will see if that's the case in my wrap-up. Hopefully it is. Who knows with me. Age category, 29 books so far have been adult, which is pretty surprising, and only 9 are young adult. I used to read almost, I would say, like 80% or more young adult. This is the first year that I'm doing mostly adult, and you can definitely tell it's 61%, and that for me is a really, really big difference in comparison to my last like 3 years of reading. At the end of my year, when I do end of the year stats, I'm going to compare last year and this year because I did CAWPILE last year, so I think I'm going to do that and compare to you the differences in this year because I definitely think there's gonna be a difference, and I'm very curious on how much of a difference that'll be. Publication year mostly are 2019 and 2021. How'd you get it? That's not surprising either. Almost 60% is from my library and 28% is owned. Scribd isn't actually Scribd, it's my Kindle Unlimited, so I used it because I don't have Kindle Unlimited as an option. So the 5 books that are under Scribd are just Kindle Unlimited books that I used. And then for standalone and series, there is 36 series and only 6 standalones. I'm a fantasy person. Most fantasy books have multiple books in the series, so of course mostly series for me. Series started, sequels read, and the series finished. Only finished 4. I've continued 18, and then I've started 8, which is interesting because I always tell myself every year, like, this is the year we're gonna be finishing series, and then this happens. So this is by gender of the author, so man, women, non-binary, multiple authors. Man and women is actually pretty split because, like I said, I'm getting into more fantasy, so this isn't that surprising. I think the romance and the fantasy is battling each other right now when it comes to the gender of the authors. A little bit surprised. I used to read a lot more female authors, but that was before I got into adult books. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of adults, especially adult fantasy, is mostly written by men, so of course this will definitely kind of change that. And then the last one is the number of books by author. Of course, Tatsuki Fujimoto is the most because, like I said, Chainsaw Man I read 6 volumes. Brian Staveley is the next. Fonda Lee, that was the Green Bone Saga. Stephen King, I'll be hopefully reading more Stephen King this year. So those are my top read authors so far. And then total authors read, I read 24. So those are my stats, and those are the mid-year questions. I've been talking enough. I need to put my fan on and just stand directly in front of it. Hope all of you are keeping cool as much as you can at least. Thank you so much for watching this video. I can't wait to see my stats at the end of the year. I just love stats. They're just so satisfying. As usual, thank you for watching. I always appreciate you being here. Honestly, if you watch my videos, it makes me happy that people actually care. And I don't know, it makes me happy. Have a great day, everyone. Happy reading. I hope so far your year has been good. Hope your reading's been good. And I'll see you soon, hopefully in a future video. Have a great day. Happy reading. Goodbye, everyone.